Russia's President Vladimir Putin has confirmed the long-awaited Ukrainian counter-offensive has started. Ukrainian forces began the counter-offensive on Monday when lightly armoured Ukrainian units made gains in the country's south. The Russian president on Friday released a video on Telegram where he confirmed, "We can definitely state that this Ukrainian offensive has begun." He also announced that Russia will be deploying tactical nuclear weapons in neighbouring Belarus next month. Joining me live is co-chair of the Australian Federation of Ukrainian Organisations, Stefan Romaniw. Stefan, thank you very much for your time. You've just been at a rally outside the Russian embassy. Talk us through what happened.
Hi, Janie. Look, we're running rallies not only outside the Russian embassy here in Canberra, and just thank you to the Canberra Queanbeyan community who've been here every single day since February last year. We're running rallies. We have genocide, we have ecocide, we have Putin now launching another scale of attacks on the dam. People out the embassy were obviously calling for Russian ambassador to be expelled. We've also had people, the Baltic states have been here. We've been through this war with Russia and the Russian imperialism in the wars before. What we're doing now is trying to alert the world that we have another catastrophe. This is probably the biggest catastrophe, according to the UN, since the Chernobyl disaster. 18,000 people, 80 villages being affected, no drinking water. Yesterday we had a rally in Melbourne. A person from Kherson said, "Look, I don't need the media to tell me what's happening. My daughter is there, my sister is there. Some of our friends have been on the roof for nearly 3 days now." We have an international situation here, and we want to draw attention to the world that this is having huge impact. It's going to have agricultural impact. It's going to have social impact. It's going to have energy impact. It's a disaster. It's Russia again, Russian terrorism, and therefore we've also been calling at the rally for Putin as a war criminal to be tried. This is not stopping, and he talks about the offensive. It is not Ukraine who is the aggressor. Let's get it straight that the aggressor is Russia. All Ukraine is doing is fighting for its own territorial integrity. So people have been rallying. There's rallies in Sydney. There'll be rallies around Australia. My counterparts at the Ukrainian World Congress, we had about 15 countries doing it yesterday, taking the message out. This is an international disaster. Putin, again, has no respect for either humans, animals. We see those poor animals. We see those poor children carrying their pets through that water. We see elderly people crying because they can't get out of their buildings. This is a disaster, and we're taking this to the world and making sure that people don't get Ukraine fatigue.
And Stefan, we also have spoken on a psychological account as well, and I know you and I have spoken many times about people here and more of the stories that people are sharing with you, the ones that have fled to Australia, and of course the ones that are still there.
Look, we have the issue of mental health and torture and trauma. Why I say torture and trauma? Because we know that the Russians are committing war crimes. But the psychological effect, look, we had people at rallies yesterday, for example, and again here today, and just walking into the studio here, I've just met with a family from Ukraine who has come to look at Parliament House. They are distraught. They have either families or relatives who are suffering. Everybody's got a story to tell, and we need to understand that this is really impacting on people's mental health, and that's why we'll be going to the Australian government with a program suggesting that the people that are here at least can get some proper counselling. Because, if you're a person, a mother, you've got 3 children, your husband's fighting, what you're really asking is, when's this going to end? So there's a real call out to the Australian government now. We've had that call out about military support, and we're thankful to the Australian government for what it's done so far. But Zelensky has been calling out to the world, whether it be Hawkeyes, whether it be tanks, whether it be F-16s, whether it be the Bushmasters, an interesting story, a human life story. I spoke to somebody last night, for example, from Lviv, who was servicing those Bushmasters. And those Bushmasters are doing an amazing job in Ukraine, and that's why we're calling for more. This war is on. It's on, and people need to understand that every day people are being killed, soldiers are being killed, women are being raped, children, over 14,000 children have been taken over the border to Russia. Therefore, the Australian-Ukrainian community, and I think, Janie, we've spoken about this before, the Australian community has been absolutely fantastic because we're all fighting for the same values. I just spoke at the rally here in Canberra, and we had the Balts there, we had the Lithuanians, the Latvians, we've had the Poles, the Estonians, and others. They're all saying the same thing. We've lived through this in the Second World War with Russian imperialism. We understand that unless now the world stands up and Putin is defeated, we'll have another situation where those values that we hold so dear will be squashed again. He is not a person who has, as I said, any respect for human life, for the ecology, for the environment, for pets, for anybody, and he needs to be called out for what he has done now. His argument that the Ukrainians are responsible for this, very interesting that Ukraine is not the aggressor. Ukraine is fighting for its own integrity. Interesting also that a part of this area which was occupied by the Russians have gone, they've left people, again, showing no humanity, no feeling, just pure war crimes. And the Australian-Ukrainian community and the Ukrainian World Congress will continue to work with the international community to put on the pressure, the advocacy that we need with governments to make sure that Ukraine does win this war.
Just a couple of hours ago, Stefan, on Reuters, they were reporting reports of fighting in Ukraine from both Moscow and Kyiv, with bloggers describing the first sightings of German and US armour, signalling that Ukraine's long-anticipated counterattack was underway. Can you confirm this? What more do you know about that?
Look, we know that President Zelensky and those in charge of the armed forces have spoken about this offensive. This offensive, that's why President Zelensky has been travelling the world, calling for support. This is the time for Ukraine to make sure that it wins this war. This offensive will obviously, from what we know, it will take various forms. But one thing that the Ukrainians are very good at, they're very good strategists. They're a lot smarter in terms of a war game, so to speak, than the Russians. The offensive will happen. The offensive is there for Ukraine to reclaim what it owns. People need to understand that there is a democratic process. Ukraine does have territorial integrity. Ukraine does have sovereignty. For somebody to just walk in and say, well, I think this is, we'll take this, is just not on. And the offensive will start. When it does start, I think, as I said to you last time, I think it's going to be bloody. It's going to be fierce, because Ukrainians are very, very committed to winning this war.
Stefan Romaniw, we have to wrap it up there, but thank you very much for your time.